everybody. Carrie Ann King here with another episode of Tell Me Your Secrets, one of the shows on the Fabulous Authors on the Air Global Radio Network. And I have a fabulous guest today. We're talking to Jule Selbo about her book, 10 Days. Hi, Jule. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Before we talk to Jule anymore, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the book, and then I'm going to have her tell us all about it. The book is called 10 Days. It is the first in a series, and I am excited about that because I love this book, and I love a good series with a protagonist that I'm really into, which is definitely the case. I'm going to read you a little blurb here from Jamie Cat Callan, who's the creator of The Writer's Toolbox, the author of Bonjour, Happiness, and French Women Don't Sleep Alone, which is another fabulous title, by the way.
Yes. Oh, she's a wonderful writer.
I need to read that.
And her blog is amazing too.
I'll have to. I've heard her name all over, and I just haven't ever really read anything by her, but I think it's time. So here's what Jamie had to say about Jule's new book, 10 Days. Jule Selbo delivers a tense nail-biter of a detective story. 10 Days, a Dee Rommel mystery has everything, including Dee as the unlikely investigator, reminiscent of Jack Nicholson in Chinatown. She's in rehab for a life-altering injury. She's got a penchant for drinking. And through her seasoned eyes, we see the underbelly of Portland, a cast of quirky and dangerous characters, along with a riveting crime story that is so compelling and cinematic, it cries out to be made into a Netflix series. It's that good. You can't come by a better endorsement than that.
Yeah, that's so nice.
So it really is it does read very cinematically. I kept seeing the movie in my mind, and that should not be any great surprise because Jule actually is a screenwriter. And this is something I didn't know. We had talked earlier, and I didn't realize you actually are also a professor of screenwriting.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about that. Where are you professing?
Well, right now I'm a professor at California State University, and I'm teaching online. I've been with Cal State for about 12, 15 years now. I was a screenwriter in Hollywood, working at the different studios and networks, but I had started as a playwright. And so a friend of mine was a professor at California State University, Fullerton, and he called me up and he just said, I know that you miss the theater. I know you missed the black box and creating stuff and doing it live. And we're building up our playwriting program in the theater department. And do you think you could give us one night a week and help build up the program? And I was like, oh gosh, that sounds great. So he put my name into the hat and they decided to hire me. And so I went down after that, like I was working on television shows and where you're at the studio from 7 a.m. till midnight. And I just put into my deals that I could have Thursday night from 5 to 8 off so I could go teach my classes. And they said, okay. And I said, and if I need to, I'll come back at 8 p.m. and stay till midnight or 1 o'clock or whatever was going on at the studio that needed to be done. And so I was doing that and having a lot of fun with young playwrights. And then the film department down at Cal State started sending their screenwriting students over to me. And then they said, well, wait a minute, why don't you come over here and teach a class? So I ended up teaching another class for them. And then gradually I became a tenured professor. Well, I was still working in Hollywood.
Wow.
And then I got my PhD and in film history and film. My dissertation was in film genre for the screenwriter, because I'd just been convinced over my 20 years as a screenwriter that, people use the term genre in tons of different ways. But if a screenwriter, any kind of storyteller, looks at the term genre in terms of what the audience expects from it, from a story standpoint, it is so helpful and it's so interesting. If you sit down to write a romantic comedy, there's certain things that the audience expects.
Right.
So you want to give that to them and then give them something else so that it's fresh and new and stuff. But
so What do you think the audience expects from a thriller? So you sit down to write, well, okay, it's part thriller. It's police procedural, it's thriller, it's mystery. It kind of is all of those things
Yeah,
together.
I think this book, 10 Days, here it
Yes,
is.
show us that. Yeah.
Here it is I think I would put it under a crime mystery, because she's pretty much into it as an investigator, and there's clues, and she has to put them all together. It's still a puzzle, but it's a puzzle that she kind of understands. To me, a thriller is when somebody is like, on a highway and they stop in San Diego and they go to a gift shop and they pick up something, and then they cross the border into Mexico and they don't realize that the bad guys are after them because of what they picked up, which they had hid microfilm, taking from North by Northwest or something like that in there. And so not a thriller, the character is also trying to figure out, why me? Why is it, what is, how did I get involved in this?
Right.
So,
and Dee knows.
Dee knows.
Dee knows with the thriller kind of aspects, and I don't want to give anything away. She knows. So as a reader and a watcher, I'm thinking both of screen and reading. When I'm reading a mystery, one of the things that I absolutely love that makes a good mystery for me is the protagonist. So is that something that is known in the genre as an expectation, that you would have?
Well, there can be obviously crime mysteries where it's very almost like Law and Order. You never really get to know those people. But Law and Order has been on for like 500 million years, right? And we still don't know very much about the investigators' personal lives. So you can go that route. I don't find it as personally interesting because I want to know. I want the character to be three-dimensional,
Right.
so that they have emotional and psychological and physical and philosophical things going on that are either going to help or harm them on their journey to solve the mystery.
Right. Well, which you certainly did with Dee. So do you want to tell our listeners a little bit about Dee Rommel? I love her. She's just
good.
Vulnerable and strong and brave and gutsy and all the things, rooting for her from day one for me.
Yeah, she was a policewoman, or she is a policewoman at the Portland Police Department in Maine. And she suffered an on-the-job injury where she lost the bottom half of her left leg. So now she is she's getting used to wearing her prosthetics and a new body. She's very active. She's strong, like you said. She's an athlete, and now there's things that she just can't do. And so she's always pushing herself. She wants to be stronger than she was before the injury. And at the same time, just from her family background and, in Maine, there's just a great toughness with people in Maine because the seasons are grueling. Just life is just there. Everyone's outdoors as much as they can be. And so she's a real Maine kind of character, but she's got a big chip on her shoulder. She doesn't take guff from anyone. And when I was writing her, I kept thinking, I have 3 brothers and I have a lot of guy friends. And when guy friends are around each other, it's they can kid each other, jab each other, criticize each other, say exactly what's on their mind. And nobody really takes much offense.
Right.
Whereas women, we're just a little bit more sensitive and, oh, I can't believe you said that, and I wanted her to have that more straightforward dealing. Just tell the truth. This is what's going on, and let's just deal with it.
Right.
Kind of thing about her.
Which sometimes gets her in trouble.
Yeah.
So set the book up for us a little bit. What is at the beginning, and of course, we're not giving any spoilers away. What's the mystery that presents itself to Dee?
Well, Dee is on medical leave from the police department. She's being a bookkeeper for her godfather, and he's a private investigator in town. and Gordy is out of town for a particular thing that he needs to do. And one of the people that grew up with him in the neighborhood when they were kids, who has become kind of a tech entrepreneur, very, very successful, comes to the office and says, Gordy says you'll help me. My daughter's missing. And she said, oh, no. I'm just a bookkeeper. And things happen. She needs money for a new car. It does kind of intrigue her. She is a puzzle solver and she's real smart. And so she gets talked into helping find this man's daughter. And it turns out that the daughter said, I'm getting married June 22nd, Shabig. And Dee is saying, well, I don't understand. I mean, let her get married. This could be a romance, And he goes, no, when she was growing up, we used to spend time on Shabig Island, which is a fabulous, beautiful island right off the coast of Portland here. And when she was growing up, we made a pact with each other that if she ever needed me, she was ever in trouble, to just get that word to me.
Right.
So he said, she's never had a boyfriend. I don't know why she would be getting married. And she's saying Shabig. Right. So that's one story. And then at the same time, the bad boy in town, who Billy Payer has just gotten out of prison. And he's a violent, egocentric, handsome jerk.
Narcissistic, bad word to follow.
And one of her good friends just has never been able to get over him. She thinks that she can change him, and bad things happen to her. And Dee is determined to find justice for her friend, right, and bring Billy Payer down,
no matter what. So there's really two interwoven stories going on. There's a lot of character development. I do have to ask you a couple questions about research. So it's always fascinating to me, the things we get into as writers when we're trying to write the book. So one was about the prosthetics, because I really felt like I was inside this woman's body dealing with this multitude of prosthetics. She doesn't only have one. Yes. So how did you talk to somebody? Did you just research online? How did you manage to do that so beautifully?
Well, thanks. I did a lot of research online. There's two really good clinics here in town that help people when they have an amputated limb. So I would go over there and talk to them. And then I met a gentleman in my neighborhood who, because of a cancer thing, lost, he has an above the knee amputation. And so there's the below the knee and above the knee, and there's different things, problems or challenges that come from that. And so his name is John Lemieux, and he's just a fabulous guy. He was a basketball coach, big basketball player in college, and then a basketball coach. And it was a 3 or 4 year trial that he had to go through to get to where he is today. But now he's playing golf, and there's some things he still can't do. Like I play pickleball, and sometimes he'll try to come out and play pickleball, but, and he does it fine because he's so athletic, but there's certain things like going backwards and twisting that are uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. So we discussed a lot about the mental and physical and emotional things that people have to go through. And then he read the manuscript and, gave me a few suggestions, but he said, how did you figure all this stuff out? Because as a writer, and because you're a fabulous writer, it's, you become your protagonist. Yeah. And so I put Dee in this situation. I'd go, okay, well, she's got to deal with it. How would I deal with it if I, and then, and obviously there's so many wonderful people on YouTube who are just so open and really are there to help other people with these challenges too.
Right. Well, it's beautifully done. And so I love when that happens. And it's kind of almost a little bit magic, I think, sometimes as a writer, when you just kind of put yourself in your character and they tell you and then you write it. So that was one of the things I loved about her. And I have to say, I do love a good series like this starting with a female protagonist, because most of my favorites that I've loved over the years, Jonathan Kellerman books. I love the Jack Reacher series. It's really fun to have a woman in this role. So that's really cool. Another thing that I have to say was just fascinating, and it's very timely. This book involves high tech and people that work in tech, including the social media people. And I read the book just as everything blew up with Facebook this week. So I found that just a fascinating layer of extra interest. So just for interest's sake, I noted as I was reading that the social media platforms that the people were using were called Friendline and Flitter and a few other things that were close to what we know, but not quite. So I was curious about your decision to alter the names of what are probably platforms that we're all using on a regular basis.
Well, yeah, because I personally, and Dee is struggling with it in the book, is, what have we given up privacy wise for convenience? And sometimes the social media can be used for good purposes and sometimes for very evil and destructive purposes. Mm-hmm. So I knew I was going to be like, looking at that in a certain way. And I also didn't want to, I just kind of wanted to call it something different, but something that people would know what it was.
Right. Yeah.
Because I was using it in the book for special purposes.
Right.
And also since it is ongoing, it's interesting because in the book, Dee is pretty much, this is not the way relationships should be built. This is not the way communication should be had. But at the same time, it helps so much as a private investigator.
Right.
And sometimes the bad guys, they're not so smart, and they'll put something on. It's so crazy that people want to be out there, but then when it is out there and it comes back at them, they go, well, wait a minute.
Right.
That's not fair.
Right. Well, and it was really fascinating to me because you did bring out some really interesting ethical issues from the character's point of view. And so are those things real, that there is a sort of an overseeing? There was, I'm trying to remember, there was like people who talked about this ethical issue about artificial intelligence and what should be allowed and what should not. Is that a legit organization or something that you made up for the book?
Well, I don't know about the organization, but yes, everything is legit in there.
Yeah.
And when I was doing my research, I was like going, oh, come on, nobody would agree to that.
Right.
But there are, companies that say, yeah, put this chip into the heel of your hand and you'll never have to put in a password. You'll never have to have your a card to get into the office. Without also saying, and we'll know exactly where you are every single moment of the day. And, but people are willing, for convenience sake, to give up their, a sense of privacy.
Right.
And, and people will go, oh, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, what do you care? If you're not committing a crime, what do you care? But I do care.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that too. So, out of curiosity, do you have a Facebook account?
And yeah, I do, but I only use it basically for business stuff. Yeah. And I do love seeing pictures of my friends' kids, or they'll like some of my friends that I went to college with, they'll post a picture of all of us doing something stupid, way back when, and it's fun to see that. But I don't use it to chat, basically because of that.
Right.
I don't know. I wrote diaries like crazy when I was a little kid, and I remember, and I know it sounds stupid, but there was a moment, I think when I was in college, and I went home and my parents had put all my diaries in this box and they were moving. So I had to decide what to do with them. And I thought, oh my God, did my parents read these? Oh my God, And then I was just like, I don't want anyone to read them, because who I was when I was 10 years old and the things that I was worried about, I would look at it and go, oh my God, but I burned them.
Yeah.
I burned them all. And would I want them back? I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I just thought, no, this was meant to be my private world, and I want to keep it private.
Right. I hear you. I have some too that I need to burn. I burned some. I don't want my kids to read them. That's my I really don't. So on other notes, this is the beginning of a series. So what's the next book that you have planned? What's the title of that one?
Is 9 days.
Okay.
So it's going to go from 10 days down to 9 days, 8 days, 7 days, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Excellent.
So, yeah. And that's my plan. So that's what I'll be doing for the next 4 or 5 years. How
fun. I love this so much. And we're, again, the book that we're talking about today is 10 Days by Jule Selbo. People can find you. You have a website. It's just deerommel.com, I believe, correct?
No, it's juleselbo.com.
Jule, why did I went with Dee. See, she's such a real character. I actually went with her. Yeah, there you go. Jule Selbo, and that's JuleSelbo.com. Do we know when the next book is going to be available?
Well, I'm just finishing it now. And so then it'll have to go to some beta readers, and then the editor will look at it. And I'm hoping that it'll be out, in the late spring. I'm crossing my fingers.
Awesome. And I've got my fingers crossed for, a movie or a TV series, because good. I think that would just be fantastic fun as well. I loved the book. It was just all the things that I love in a book like this. Loved the characters. It was fast paced. There was mystery, pages turning. I read, and I loved it very much. You guys need to pick it up and give it a read. It is 10 Days by Jule Selbo. Thank you so much for being here with me today. It's nice to talk to you again. And
yeah. All right. Well, I hope that the weather stays good for you guys out there.
Thank you. It's beautiful right now. That's for sure. We're having, which is nice. We had a horrible drought summer, so we're just very grateful for normal fall. Fingers crossed. All right. Thank you for listening. Okay. Take care, Jule. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.